Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. Today we're talking about the Pauper leagues, the Magic Online leagues, and this is the first week of leagues after Modern Horizons 3 has released. So let's see the crazy things that are happening on Magic Online. Before we get into it, make sure to check out the Patreon, which is patreon.com/kalikaiz. If you want sideboard guides for Familiars, Ultratron, Poison Storm, stuff like that. Make sure to check out cardmarket.com, the largest seller of Magic the Gathering cards in Europe. They can get you the battle boxes and the new cards. And what were we thinking coming into this week? We thought probably Affinity was going to be the best deck, given that Refurbished Familiar is a very, very pushed card. But it turns out that there's an even more pushed card that has been absolutely dominating Modern Horizons 3 Limited, and that is Writhing Chrysalis. This card is basically a 2-mana 4/5 that stacks when you get multiple of them in play. It's really crazy. So why don't we get into how the week progressed? Well, firstly, top deck of the week was Affinity. Nobody didn't think that was going to happen. But then our second top deck was GR Ponza at 16 pilots, and then Walls coming in third, likely after the GR Ponza was smashing everybody because Walls is a very, very good deck against GR Ponza. We still have Mono Red here, some Madness Burn with new cards, which is cool. Jeskai Ephemerate with new cards, Familiars with a new land, Bogles with no new cards. We have Red-Green Monsters. So really there was 20 decks playing Red-Green that ended up winning. Just some majority of them, 16, were playing Thermokarst and Acid Moss and stuff like that. We also have a couple of versions of Teamer Ponza in the leagues. So let's get into the day by day. And here we see 118 total trophies. I started this on the 11th. It's not including the 11th before Modern Horizons released, so there's only 3 decks on the first day. So that's why it's a little bit less in terms of totals. But on day 1, we have 1 Affinity, 1 Dimir Terror, and 1 Blue X Fae, all of which were trying to play well, I guess Fae was not playing any new cards, so that's normal. But then we have a Dimir Terror playing 4 Sneaky Snacker. Sneaky Snacker, when you draw your 3rd card in a turn, return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this allows you to not really have that much worry about Edicts anymore in Dimir Terror. And then we have a Grixis Control playing Refurbished Familiar over the Frogmites, which I thought was probably the way to do it right away. On day 2, we had 9 Affinity Pilots trophy, which was just ridiculous. I kind of felt like it was just going to be the Affinity format. We just see Affinity, 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 Affinity. 3 Madness Burn. Then we see 2 Mardu Metalcraft. Sorry, I was just making sure that my OBS was correct. 1 Walls, Mono Red, Jeskai Ephemerate, Boros Bully, and Mono White Heroic. So the Grixis Affinity list starting to play more aggro, and I think this is probably the correct way to do it. This is a Besu list with 4 Frog, 4 Refurbished Familiar, and 4 Mere Enforcer, not playing Sneaky Snacker, and instead just like playing a lot of free spells with 4 Galvanic Blast. It makes a lot of sense to me. In the sideboard, we have the Anti-Affinity with Gorilla Shaman, some more Metallic Rebukes for opposing Dust to Dusts. And we saw a Mardu Synthesizer also playing Refurbished Familiar with 20 creatures, and so they can just pick up and put back down the Refurbished Familiar to shred the opponent's hand. The Jeskai Ephemerate from Mike. This person was the first to play this Jeskai Energy. So they're playing 4 Tune the Narrative, 4 Galvanic Discharge, both Modern Horizons 3 cards. And that makes Galvanic Discharge basically be a 1-mana Scred, and you don't have to play Snowlands anymore. So you're having a little bit of an easier time casting your removal spells. And then they're also playing 1 Jolted Awake here. You can pay any amount of energy after you get 2 from casting it to return a creature with less than or equal to that amount of energy to the battlefield. So this is a much better version of the Late to Dinner in this deck specifically. On day 3, tons of Affinity again. 7 Affinities, 2 of them being Esper, which was pretty fun. I ended up trophying after seeing OutZero trophy with Esper Affinity. And we see 2 mono red, 2 Madness Burn, 3 blue-white familiars, and 2 Poison Storms, plus a GR Ponza, Jeskai Ephemerate, Bogles, and Is It Terror. So this Poison Storm from DB Willhall. So Willhall is one of the casters for the Pro Tour, for MTGO. It's awesome to see that they've picked up Poison Storm and having fun with it. And they're trimming on the Lotus Petals for more action in the main deck. 3 Prologue and 4 Inquiry. Steady Progress. 1 Moment's Peace in the main deck and 4 Weather Storms, so no Breath Weapon in the main deck. They've got a Breath Weapon in the sideboard and 2 Fiery Cannonade, mostly probably because on Magic Online, Breath Weapon is extremely expensive. We saw Jake Helms just crushing Affinity with Familiars, so that was cool to see. What an interesting... Alright, so here's another Terror deck. This looks like Blue-Red Terror, but it's really like a... Yeah, it's Blue-Red Terror with Tolarian Terror and Snacker as the only threats, and then the rest is just like interaction. That's really sweet. Mike with another Jeskai Ephemerate, and then Niederschaden with Red-Black Burn, playing 4 Sneaky Snacker and 4 Refurbished Familiar. This is a very aggro version, lots of flyers, lots of value, being able to discard your Snacker, and then shred your opponent's hand with the Familiar. Very, very strong. Then the Esper Affinity that Zamu piloted. This is basically the old blue-white Affinity with just ninjas and affinity stuff, but you can ninja back your Refurbished Familiar, which can be pretty brutal against the opponent. And when I played it in the league, I only dropped 1 game, which was very strong. But we'll see if that's going to continue to be good enough in the leagues as they progress. So on the next day, on the 14th, we saw 3 walls, 2 mono red, 2 affinity, 2 Colgate, 2 terror. The rest were 1-ofs for Ponza, Madness Burn, Jeskai Ephemerate, Bogles, Gardens, Mono White Heroic, Dredge, Flickertron, White Weenie, and a Cycle Storm. So Cycle Storm here from Ryan Cook, he decided that he wanted to try out Rowan's Grim Search and play the hottest ploy. So Rowan's Grim Search can bargain, and then you look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them back on top in any order and the rest in your graveyard, then you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. So in Cycle Storm, you a lot of times are just going to want to bin 4 and then draw 2 cards, which is really strong. And then this combined with Deadly Dispute means you have a ton of digging power to find your big spells like your Songs of the Damned and your Reaping the Graves. And then you've got Tahada's Ploy to gain that life back. And also to loot and continue pushing through your deck. Another addition to this deck is Siege Smash, which has Split Second. So you can target a relic and the opponent cannot respond. And then also can give a creature Trample, which is the second mode that's apparently doing pretty well and combined with Horror of the Broken Lands to make a giant creature to attack. And we see HDM winning with Ephemeratron. If there's anything cool in there, I don't think so specifically. Yeah, this is pretty standard, but they're playing Stonehorn Dignitary in the main deck, as well as 2 Moments Peace, so they're splitting that specifically. All right, so moving on to the next day. Now here's where things start to get crazy. Somebody realized that Ponza was really good because they probably were paying attention to this new card from Modern Horizons 3, Writhing Chrysalis. This is a 2 red-green with a ridiculous amount of text on it. It's devoid, has no color, so it can block Guardian. Whenever you cast a spell, create 2 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawns. So even if it gets countered, you get the spawns, which you can sacrifice to add colorless. So essentially, it is a red-green 4/5 because whenever you sacrifice another Eldrazi, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then it also has reach. So it's a 4/5 insane beater that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Allows you to ramp into other things. It's wild. So here they're playing 4 Thermokarst, 4 Acid Moss, 4 Glimpse the Impossible. These are all new. Glimpse the Impossible is another new card that also makes tokens, Eldrazi spawns, and that can help with their Writhing Chrysalis. And this has actually pushed Boarding Party to be absurdly expensive. Right now it's looking at 73 tickets just for the playset. So if you have Boarding Party on Magic Online and you don't want to play Ponza, I would recommend selling it because it's nearly 20-something tickets. It's absurd. Then we have a Teamer Ponza playing a very similar package but playing Lorien Revealed. And then on the next day, we see 4 Ponza, again, 4 walls, of varying kinds, combo and cascade. Then 3 affinities. So affinity is still hanging in there. 2 black-white blades, and 1 ofs for mono-red, red-green monsters, which I am calling the Ponza-less Ponza deck. Kagates, Boros Bully, Is It Terror, Demir Terror, and a Tireless Tribe. So nice to see Tireless Tribe getting there. Good job, Ishinez. And then here, let's check out this Orza Ephemerate. This is one of the lists that we really thought would be pretty easy to pick up. Like, this makes a lot of sense. You're playing your Glinthawks and your Core Skyfishers, picking up and replaying your Refurbished Familiars and making your opponent's life suck. And then you also have Tithing Blade to pick up and put back down to get rid of all their creatures. And then this person was not playing Ephemerate, but they're playing 4 Refurbished Familiar, 3 Okibigang Shinobi. So if one thing, this is brutal. You attack with a Refurbished Familiar, then you Okibigang it back, make them discard even more, pick up the Refurbished Familiar, play the Refurbished Familiar, make them discard even more. This is just a really impressive, like, destroy your hand kind of deck. Playing 4th Raven Charm in the sideboard instead of Relics, and 4 Dust to Dust for the Affinity Pilots. Pretty intense. And then, moving on to the last day, we see the format as it is at this point. Let's check out the most played cards. Number 1, Annoyed Allosaur. Number 2, Avenging Hunter. Number 3, Arbor Elf, Avenging Hunter, Boarding Party, Repurposer. So, we see basically the most played deck, 6 Gruul Ponza, and then we also see 2 of the red-green monsters, 3 of the red-green monsters. So 9 Ponza players / Ponza-less Ponza in a total of 21, I think. So almost half of the trophies from this day were from this deck. I don't know if it's going to continue, but this is pretty scary. So I hope that you have a good answer to Ponza if you're going to be playing in the Magic Online leagues. So 6 Ponza on that day, 3 red-green monsters, and then nobody else really doing anything good. 2 walls, 2 mono red, 2 L's. I mean, those are all anti-Ponza strategies. That makes sense. We see 1 affinity. From my understanding, this Ponza is very good against affinity. 1 Madness Burn, 1 Jeskai Ephemerate, a Mono Blue Terror, a Dredge, a Flickertron. Whew, what a crazy time. What a time to be alive. We're just watching people get destroyed by this new card. And it's funny because we didn't really expect that to be the main thing to happen, but it did. So I'm really excited to see how this is all going to keep moving forward. I'm going to try to go under the affinity with maybe Cycling Storm or something. If you have any inklings on how to beat this Ponza deck, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.